So I want to share stories about, I had said faith comes by experience. So I want to share stories about God providing my life. Shortly after I get very interested in God, He became very real to me. He shows me to go to Bible college. So I'm saving up money for Bible college. I'd always been a bit of a workaholic. Started working a lot when I was 8, doing odd jobs here and there. I always helped my dad work on cars, mowed lawns, rake leaves, always did my chores. Had my first payroll job when I was 15. Was such a hard worker, they gave me a raise within 3 weeks of working there, which was unheard of for that place. And it made people jealous and angry because I worked hard and I was efficient, and I would do something in 15 minutes. It took everyone else an hour or two. Apparently they, take their time intentionally. They never told me they did that intentionally. I just went in there and claimed it. Anyway, so I'm working. I think I'm 20. And I cash my paycheck. I come home and I'm adding it to my savings. I'm saving up to pay for all of Bible college, which is $1,800 for the semester, for the year, for 2 semesters, which included room and board there. And I count my money, and there's money missing, like $300. I don't remember. So anyhow, it comes out my stepfather had stolen it because he was doing drugs again, and he was fixing his car, and he wanted the money to do his car. And it says in Romans 12, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. In so doing, you'll heap burning coals on his head. What does it mean to heap burning coals? It means you'll increase their conviction. Their guilt will come to surface, and they either need to justify their guilt or rectify their guilt. So I go to make a sandwich, and I feel impressed to make him one too. And I go out to the garage and I say, hey, I'm making a sandwich. Would you like one too? And the fact that I'm mellow, kind, not angry, just drives him bonkers, When we do something wrong, we immediately seek to justify it in order to take away conviction. And when we do a kindness to someone who's made up self-lies about you, it witnesses against that, and it causes them psychological anguish, the heaping coals. So I go to work that day. Before I come home from work, I'm notified that I'm not welcome home. I'm kicked out of the house. I didn't do anything wrong. And anyhow, here nor there, he ends up repenting at that time. We forgive him. My mom comes to me and says, he took money from the bank account. We don't have money to pay rent. I was praying and God told me to ask you for it. So I gave it to her without asking God or anything. I just give it. And now I have no money, and I'm devastated. I have no faith. I'm like, guess I'm not going to Bible college. So anyhow, the Lord ends up showing me to go anyways. By the time I go to the college, I have half the money for the full year. No, for the one semester. It's $1,800 a semester. So what, $3,600 for a year. So I get there, I got about 1,000. And they let me make payments. So anyhow, my truck needed insurance, and I need to make payments, and I'm thinking, where's the money going to come from? So I need to get a job, even though I'm a full-time student. And I go into the bathroom, and then there's this verse in there about, consider the lilies of the field, consider the birds of the air. They don't toil nor spin nor sow nor reap. And I just feel like God's saying, no, I'll take care of you. And it's not so much I didn't have the faith for that, as it to me, that's just nonsense. If you need money, you go work. Because I've worked since I was 8 years old. When I say that, I mean not just chores around the house, doing things to get paid, other than an allowance. Not full-time all the time, of course, but just always worked, always bought my own stuff. My parents would fight over, because my parents were separated when I was 2, who gets to buy my shoes. So, around 11, I figured out it was easier just to buy my own shoes, and I wasn't a problem. So anyhow, I go to get insurance. I go to the job and just feel terribly guilty. Terribly guilty. I know I'm disobeying God. So I find this guy who's looking for a job, and I say, hey, I know of a job. I'm going to give your name. So I go in the next day and say, look guys, I'm sorry. I committed this job. I can't. So they give me the pay for the one day I worked. And the other guy actually gets the job. Then I need insurance on my car. So I'm praying for that, and it's out of the blue, money shows up. So I go to buy insurance. And I'm sitting there buying the insurance, and the woman says to me, do you want uninsured motorist coverage? That is, if someone who's uninsured hits you, you're covered. And it's $20 for the 6 months. And I hear yes in my head, and I wasn't used to that. And I was like, yeah, what the heck? $2 a month, basically. And I get the insurance, she hands me the insurance, I go out to my truck, and I get in my truck, and it just hits me. Is God gonna wreck my truck? And so I'm there, and each month is like that. And the next month I need money to make auto insurance payment, and I need money to make the school tuition payment, and the money shows up. Like, I got a check from my past insurance saying I'd overpaid, and here's the refund. You know, it never happened to me before. Or somebody out of the blue would send me money, and I wasn't asking anyone. The only time I was telling people is if they asked me if I had prayer requests. Here's what I did. So the school changes campuses. It was in Twin Peaks, California, and it moves to Marietta, California. So now I'm down in Marietta. And the new campus doesn't have laundry facilities. And the nearest laundry facilities is like 2 miles away. So one day, every Saturday, this group would go out and do what they called street witnessing in Oceanside, California. And there was a girl I was interested in, and I had an appointment to call her from the payphone. And people come to me and go, "Are you going to go street witnessing tonight?" I said, "No, not tonight." I have, in my mind, I'm like, I have a phone call to make. And the weirdest thing is I get 5 or 6 people asking me, and this never would happen. I go make my phone call. I come back, and the group hadn't left yet because they need another driver. And the guy's like, "Are you going to go?" And I said, "Well, I'd love to, but I don't have gas money." And he hands me a 20 and goes, "Here you go." And I was like, okay, well, I made my phone call, might as well go. So I get my truck, we go. I go to get gas, and I kept €5 for laundry and put €15 of gas in. And as we go to drive away, one guy's in the back, "Well, let's pray. God keep us safe, da, 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 da." And I interrupt his prayer and said, "Unless it's God's will that we're not safe." And they kind of look at me like, huh? So we're going down the road, down the freeway, down I-5. I-5 or I-15 at that point? I think it's I-5. No. I-15. I don't know. Towards Escondido. It's been so long. From Marietta. And next thing I know, my truck is spinning off the road. Boosh. And we stop. And I grew up driving squirrely, learning how to drift and driving in the mud and driving sideways and taking the car out of control and regaining control. We'd fool around in the back roads. And as soon as it stopped, I was like, turned around and say, "Is that fun or what?" And as soon as I say, "What?" the 3 guys that are in the back, this was a Chevy Blazer, are not in the back. And in one motion, I unbuckled, put it in park, turned it off, opened the door, just poof, run out looking for those guys. And they're laying on the side of the road. None of them were injured. My truck's totaled. Police show up, do a report. Now, we were a caravan of like 10 cars, and I was like number 9. So the rest of the cars in front didn't even see it. They just kept going. Didn't even know they'd lost us, but the car behind me had stopped. And so that car had stopped. Everyone's fine. Police came, check everyone out. We don't need an ambulance. Everything's okay. Although they'd flown out the back of the tailgate, nobody got hurt. So the car that had stopped takes us all back to the school. And anyhow, I'm like, wow, that was crazy. And I don't know what we're going to do. And the guys are freaking out. What if I end up with an injury? So I run and I get my copy of my insurance. I said, look guys, I was insured. If you're hurt, don't worry about it. And we'll find out who hit us. The cops will find out. And I come to find out they caught the person. The person was being pursued by the police, weaving in and out of traffic, clipped me and threw me into a spin because my tire blew. They took another off-ramp and blew through the stoplight and T-boned a minivan. And turns out it was a girl who had stolen the car, who was high on all kinds of drugs, and she said that she thought an airplane was trying to land on her. And about that time there was that movie with Charlie Sheen where the entry is this car and this airplane almost lands on it. So it's possible she thought that, especially if she had taken some LSD. So anyhow, the next day I got $5 to do my laundry, but no ride. And I'm very, very annoyed that I've lost my car. And I'm not cool. And I go and I sit down. I try to take a nap, and I just say, God, I'm not cool with this. And I hear a voice say, ask the first person you see. So I go out my bungalow at Marietta, which was the very last one on the other side of campus. And there's a guy walking by, and I'm like, could you take me to do my laundry? And he goes, yeah, I'm going to the gym right next door. So I begin to experience God providing and guiding. So I get my laundry done, go back. And so this is around Christmas time. And I'm completely broke, don't have a vehicle, don't have a job, need to make a payment for school. And I was doing one of these Samaritan Purse shoe boxes to send gifts to kids in third world countries. And I had bought all the toys and I had filled the box, but I didn't have the $5 to give to send it. And I just go to my room, none of my roommates there, and I'm just crying about it. I'm like, because I work. I provide for myself. I never ask anyone for money. And I'm just crying about, why won't you let me work? Why won't you let me have money? I've never been without money. And somebody knocks on my door, and it's one of the campus security guards and says, here, I have a note for you. And I open it, and there's $5 inside. No words. Wow, how'd that happen? Because I didn't tell anyone I didn't have the $5 to send it. So there's a thing about a detective, especially, like a homicide detective. He'll say, yeah, that's a coincidence. But when there's 2 or 3 coincidences, he says, now it's evidence. And I've had atheists tell me, oh, those are just coincidences or self-fulfilled prophecies. But they're so often so frequent that even a detective will tell you, no, that's evidence. So it's evidence. So anyhow, I need to pay the school off. I go and they say I'm $500 behind, and I'm like, no, I only owed $100. And I don't know if they got their records wrong or I did, but somehow I'm behind $500, and the semester's almost over. And because of this, next semester they won't let me make payments. Which is just weird for me. This is supposed to be living at church, and they're treating me like some sort of negligent, unfaithful, bad credit-worthy customer. Anyway, and I'm really freaking out. And I come around the corner, and they had a cafe there, and it says, be still and know that I'm God. And I'm like, how can I be still? My world's falling apart. I can't pay. I hate owing money. I can't pay this off. I can't go to next semester. I don't have a vehicle, so if I were to go back to live, I don't have no one to live with. I go live with my sister in LA, and I go live with my mom. What am I going to do? And I had a message from the insurance company. And I'm like, now what? What do they want? And she said, look, we researched it, and the person who hit you had stolen a car, so it fell under